getting on the phone with you guys.
Okay. Well, we have 2 minutes to spare, so we're good.
Okay.
I tell you, for when we thought we had a pretty brief agenda, it seems to have filled up.
Well, we reduced it again, so.
Yeah, you're safe.
We'll be quick.
Okay. I have a 12 o'clock webinar that I'm hoping to be able to jump on, so I'm hoping that we can do this in an hour.
Okay. Push your fingers. Okay, you And I think you've got all the staff here that's going to be here today.
Okay, so it doesn't look like we have a quorum yet, if I'm looking at people on the web. So we need 9, Lauren, or 11? Remind me.
And Ronnie Bashford's here. Sorry, Ronnie. I feel like our staff. Dan said he will be attending.
Oh, Dan just got in.
7. Tanya Christovich is going to call in too. And Susan and Eric. Yes, actually.
So let me just ask, just for to try to keep it somewhat organized. Lauren, do you have a board list in front of you?
Not in front of me, but I can pull it up.
If you could, maybe we could just do a roll call instead of trying to have people shout. Oh, that's a good idea.
Brian looks like he's 12.
Maybe that's a good idea. Why don't you do a roll call? Let's see who we have.
Roll call. Brian when he was 12. So you want us to do this? So Rhonda, you're here. Martha Landman. Brian Gibbons. Madeline Carlson. Jorge Rivera.
This is Denise from Molina. Jorge's on PTO, so I'm just dialing in on his behalf.
Thank you. Terry Green.
Here.
Dan Ferguson. Okay. Arlene. Dana is not going to be here. Tanya, are you on the line yet? Tanya Chris? That's Selnecker.
I think that's logged in.
I'm here. Thank you.
Susan Grindle.
Susan Grindle's here.
Thank you. Ronnie's in the room. Sandra Torres.
Hi.
Sandra. Ruben Alvarado. Julie Peterson, we saw your name come up.
I'm here.
Okay, and Eric Nielsen. We need one more.
Brian Gibbons.
Yay!
See what happens? Yeah.
You were just waiting for that.
Okay. So let me ask if when you're not speaking, if everyone could please mute your phones, and then unmute when you want to speak. And I know Carol you guys just sent out some updated materials. So as always, let's start by asking everyone to review the conflict of interest statement and the self-dealing transactions. And based on the information that you see on the agenda, if you either believe you have a conflict now, or when we get to that agenda item, if you would speak up to that specific item, we would appreciate it. So the first item is the board minutes from July 18th. And hopefully people have had a chance to review them. And so as soon as someone is ready, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
I move that we accept the minutes. This is Ronnie Bachelor.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Susan Grindle seconds.
Thank you, Susan. Is there any discussion about the minutes? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are passed. Thank you. So Carol and staff, why don't you go ahead and give us your updates?
So we'll just go through the GCACH report, and you'll see particular people assigned to these articles, and we'll just go through the report page by page. And any of you that attended the Transitional Care and Disease Management Learning Collaborative on August 1st and 2nd can chime in, but I would just hail it as a great success. We really appreciated Dr. Martin facilitating a large portion of that two-day event, and all of the regional and local speakers that attended, and we thought that it was actually a great turnout.
So I will take Martine's article and then I'll do my article. So Martine was just highlighting that we are halfway through our first year of practice transformation for our cohort 1 folks. We just had submission for quarter 2 happen last month in July. And we've seen some really good outcomes from some of the work that some of the sites have been doing, really just transforming their practice. There's a lot of culture change that's involved, bringing the right staff to the table, tracking clinical quality metrics, all that good stuff. So that was what Martine wanted to highlight, and thank all of the sites for their hard work. For my article, I wrote about Providence St. Mary Medical Center. They've just been doing a lot of great work. I think I mentioned at the last board meeting how they realized there was a gap in their system, so then they identified patients who had scored high on the PHQ-9, indicating they were depressed and had suicidal intention. And so they were able to contact all 25 of those patients. They've been doing a lot of work partnering in the community with Comprehensive. And I just want to highlight Becky Bett's quote. She's kind of the champion for practice transformation. They've made a whole population health department because of the practice transformation work. And she said, at first I felt like I had to do a good job so my organization can get this money. But now I don't even think about the money. I am so on fire for practice transformation. I thank my lucky stars that GCACH moved us in the right direction. And so they call us GCACH, but
The organization's
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, just wanted to highlight that really good work they're doing, a lot of transformation, a lot of culture change, seeing a lot of impact. They've had hospital docs rave about their practice transformation meeting, so the doctors actually want to come to the meeting. So I'm trying to bring Becky out and meet with some of our local people here in Tri-Cities to kind of get what she's got going. So, but yeah, they're doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Jenna. The next article is just about the fact that we released the LOI, the letters of interest and the current state assessment for the 3rd cohort. This was the cohort that the board approved at your last meeting. We just said that we're targeting some of the hospitals that didn't get selected in the last go-round, rural health clinics, and referrals from the cohort 1 organizations that included some skilled nursing facilities. And so far we have 29
that we've submitted to.
Oh.
It went out on the 26th, and we're expecting responses back by August 23rd. Following that, between August 26th and the 13th of September, we expect OHSU to do the scoring of the returned responses, and we'll also be doing our own internal scoring as well as we did the last time. And then those organizations that scored highly will go forward to the September 19th Board of Directors meeting for approval for Cohort 3.
Thanks, Wes. Ruben.
Oh, my turn, right? Yeah, the community resilience pilot in Yakima, we had that meeting yesterday. We had a summit with 22 Yakima area community leaders, leaders from different sectors, mostly people who are pretty well versed on ACEs and resilience. So the purpose was to get from them ideas on what the messaging should look like, what the tone should be, what platforms would be best. It was a very, very positive summit. We harvested a lot of information. Minerva Pardo, she's one of the 3 ladies from Yakima that helped us organize this. She conducted this activity called Community Cafe. I call it shop. Community Cafe, and that activity really helped collect a lot of raw information that we're going to distill, analyze, and capture the messaging from all of that material. We did a couple other exercises. We asked them we gave them the outline of the bus, so we asked them to maybe draw on the bus what a message should look like, and a little tagline as well. So they provided a lot of good content that way as well. So right now we are in the process of looking at that material and see what kind of message we can get out of that raw data that they give us. Very good.
Thank you, Ruben.
So included here is an update to the semi-annual report, which went out on July 31st. This is the 3rd of 8, and there's a PowerPoint presentation that we actually put together that we'll review at the next board meeting. But briefly for SAR 3.0, there's a lot of the traditional reporting areas that included either an attachment or a narrative response, including tribal collaboration, communication, design funds, an implementation plan, work plan update, integrated managed care update, and more. There were 2 new areas for this particular SAR. One related to the pay for reporting metrics template that was issued to us, and that template included responses relating to Project Area 2A, which is bidirectional integration, and Project 3A, which is opioid use. So we were required to collect and aggregate information around those 2 project areas. Information was collected from the practice transformation milestone deliverables, which were uploaded into the reporting portal. And for 2 of the community-based organizations, they were collected through a small survey that went out. So that information, again, was aggregated and reported back to Healthcare Authority and the independent assessor through a template tool that they provided to us. And the other new area relates to a quality improvement strategy, and I'll let Carol talk about that.
And so this was a new requirement. The Healthcare Authority is really looking on how each ACH is doing quality improvement, both I think for the overall program and then within our providers. So we really basically outlined what we're accomplishing through the patient-centered medical home model of care, because it really is, when you think about it, an overall improvement strategy for a hospital or a clinic. And so there were certain requirements that we had to put in that plan, including, defining and communicating the expectations and responsibilities for our partnering providers and their part in continuous quality improvement. We had to establish a regional framework for supporting the quality improvement processes, which we did through our toolkit. We're monitoring our transformation approaches through our CSI portal, through the PTIW reviews and the trackers that you'll see here in a few minutes. We're supporting our partnering providers and making necessary adjustments to optimize their transformation approaches through our technical assistance with our practice transformation navigators and our learning collaboratives. And then we're disseminating those successful approaches through our GCACH reports. You just heard about Providence, St. Mary's. And we also feature some of our exemplars during our learning collaborative. So we feel very comfortable about the approach that we're taking for our quality improvement. Oh yeah, and Lauren is going to show you. So in the news, in the community newsletter, it has a link, but we'll just take you to the site. So if you guys want to read it for bedtime reading, put you to sleep. You can find it under resources.
Resources, and then if you scroll to more resources, go to GCACH resources, reports, and then it's this first document right here. And then if you're interested in looking at the quality improvement plan, it's attachment number 8.
Thank you, Lauren.
So this is a preview for the upcoming board meeting in September. We now have a template for SAR 4.0, and some things have been called out there for our reporting that we'll go over with the board at the next meeting.
Yep. So for the learning collaboratives, this is a list of the rest of the learning collaboratives for till the end of the year. So for September 5th, we're going to have the MCOs, J.D. Fisher and Jenna and Martina and Sam there. We're going to talk about value-based payments. And what it looks like for behavioral health and for primary care. So we're going to talk about both of that. So all of the clinical staff in behavioral health and also the PCMH cohort 1 and cohort 2 are recommended to attend that meeting. Then October 30th is our kickoff / rewards dinner, which we're going to talk about here later on in the meeting today. And then on November 5th, we're having Kane Criddle come and do a one-day trauma-informed care training. It's really geared towards the behavioral health providers, but anybody else who would like to attend is welcome to attend as well. And we will get some Eventbrite set up so that we can get that registration starting up pretty soon. And then for the November 15th, that is when they're going to do kind of how residents within the clinic explaining how to implement. And so this one I'm not so sure about. Sam's really the one who's leading the November 15th one. And then December 11th, we're going to have Adam Falcone come. He is going to talk about contracts and contract negotiation. He's going to be here for a one-day seminar for that. And like I said, anybody from both cohort 1 and both cohort 2 are welcome to attend.
Cohort 3 by that
cohort 3 by that
Right, right.
So that's for the rest of the year, and then we're working on next year's schedule, and we'll have that hopefully soon.
Diane, the residency program is the Central Washington and Yakima Valley Farm Workers, along with some of the other colleges that or osteopathic medicine that actually have programs for residencies along with nursing programs. So we'll have different setups for that and how they can get involved if they want to.
Great. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Okay, update from the portal. We pushed out a large payment last Friday. We were pretty excited about it. So we have a total for the cohort 1. We have made payments totaling $7.3 million. Congratulations to all of those providers. And then cohort 2, the report as a production update. So we have the report says there's 11 of the 17 cohort 2 providers that have signed their contracts, but actually we have only 2 left now. Jenna and I went over the list this morning, and we have 2 providers left that haven't signed. and mostly that's due to them not knowing for sure what their integration times are going to be for this cohort. So we're still working with them. Our navigators are working with those two providers to get that taken care of. But we have paid all the rest of them for signing their contracts for cohort 2. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
So the Healthcare Authority is seeking provider participation in annual paying for value survey. Similar to a survey sent out a couple of months ago, we are incentivizing providers to complete this survey. So we are paying $100 per organization for taking this survey. And if you're interested, there's a link at the bottom to visit their website and take the survey. And it is open until 5 p.m. on Friday, August 30th.
Okay. So we'll briefly just go through the progress on the cohorts because we know that we only have about 40 minutes left.
Okay. So this one hasn't changed. This is a board meeting. Everybody submitted their quarter 2 submissions by 7/15, which was the due date, which you'll see the 7/15 is all on there. So that's cohort 1.
Great job.
That's concise. And so cohort 2, this is updated as of this morning to kind of reflect what Becky just talked about, that we only have 2 sites that we're waiting to get their contract signed for cohort 2, and we actually have 1 site as of this morning that submitted their budget. Budgets are due tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Then track.
Okay, I'm going to try to talk as fast as. Okay, that first block right there, it's our first quarter. It's our quarter doesn't really match the regular fiscal quarters because we extended our pay period pretty much into January for the LINs to meet their deliverables. So the first period for payment has already been met by all the LINs, and as you can see there, they all got $10,000. The next block is the period that's going to end at the end of this month. So those 2 categories I have check marks they indicate that all the LINs met those already. So the next block is the following quarter, and then we go further down to the LIN sponsorship funds and the LIN training funds. As you can see there, Ben Franklin LIN has used, in this area, has used $4,500. Blue Mountain or Walla Walla, they've used $9,000. No one has used any of the LIN training funds yet. However, I know that off the top of my head, Southeast Washington has it on their agenda today. As a matter of fact, they're meeting right now. And I know Kittitas has had discussions on how to use that LIN training money. So, those of you on the phone here, I encourage you to talk to any of the organizations and the rest of the LIN members to have this discussion, to continue having this discussion, because I know it's been discussed just about every meeting with every LIN, but we need to start using some of that training money and continue using the sponsorship money. The next block is the Community Health Fund. Every LIN, except for Benton Franklin, they had a transition in personnel, so that delays them a little bit. But they have received applications. They just need to award the grantees and push up the funding. Every other LIN has already done that. That's it.
Okay. Before we move on, going back to your transitional care conference at the top of the meeting, I wanted to mention, if anybody hasn't seen the Healthier Washington newsletter, the Benton Franklin the Benton Franklin Jail and Fire Department is featured in this week's newsletter, and they presented at the Transitional Care Conference on their opioid program in the jail. And that was a great presentation, and it just came out this morning. So if you didn't attend the conference, and I'm assuming most people probably are on the mailing list for Healthier Washington, but it's a nice story about that program. So wanted to mention that.
And they did that for free, by the way. They did not charge us for their presentation. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah. So let's go on to the financials. Brian and Becky.
Thank you very much. We met, Becky, when did we meet? Friday? Was it, huh?
It was Friday.
It was Friday. It just seems like so much longer. So we walked through the financial statements. Becky always does a really good job of sharing the details and the statements of activity. She did note that we've been working with, or has been a little bit delayed, frankly, with some responses from the accounting group with whom the ACH works. They review our stuff. They, bless it and say everything's good. They answer questions for us, things like that. We did have some questions because there seems to be some questions as to what some of the entries were, and just clarifying what those entries were. We've moved to an accrual basis, and so we've got a little bit more question. As of Friday, I think Becky had not been able to get, they'd not gotten back with Becky, and so we were not ready to advance the balance sheet to the board this month for approval. We'd like to have that information tight and complete and know all the ins and outs before we ask the board to approve it. I don't believe there's any kind of peculiarities with it. We just want to understand the some of the answers to some of the questions that we had. And so at the end of the meeting, we kind of come to the conclusion we probably did not want to present or at least ask for an action item today on the financial statements. Allow Becky and the accounting team a little bit more time to kind of get their questions answered from the auditing company.
So Brian, we do have an update that Becky can give the board of directors, because she met with Moss Adams.
Yeah, that would be most appropriate at this point then.
Yeah, I told them I didn't get to update you. I met with Moss Adams, with our auditor, and with our new audit team and our new accountant, which is part of the reason why we had so much trouble on Friday at the finance committee meeting. We've got a lot of new members in our books and a lot of people that have left or retired. So what Brian's talking about is on the balance sheet, which Lauren has up on the screen right now. So as he mentioned, as part of our audit, we were asked to move from a cash-based to an accrual-based accounting. And as part of that, we put our accountant put into our balance sheet our fixed asset. So right there on the screen, you can see this section of fixed assets. And so what happened is our accountant did a bunch of work in our books, and then she lost Moss Adams, and so we never got to have an exit interview with her. And so when we ran the balance sheet for the finance committee meeting, we saw a couple things on there that I hadn't been told about that she had put into our QuickBooks accounting, which to be honest was a little upsetting to me. But since then I met with them, and so you can see under the fixed assets they have depreciated some of our assets, which is part of an accrual-based accounting, and then they have our office equipment totaling $14,000, and that was based off of a list that we gave the auditors during our audit when they were here a couple months in July. And then they also have put in our website as a fixed asset for us. And during the finance committee meeting, they had that at $29,000, which was a number that I couldn't reconcile from our books. And when I met with them on Monday, they admitted to putting that in as a mistake, and that it should actually have been 21,000, which is what I had found in our QuickBooks. So they've since changed that. You can see that on here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
our depreciation, our current assets are correct on the balance sheet. And then the other thing that they had done, or if you can scroll down to the long-term liabilities. That's $6 million, yeah. So the other thing that they had done is they put in our long-term liabilities, which I didn't. They had two lines originally. We had one under our payroll liabilities, and they had one under our long-term liabilities, and I couldn't reconcile where they got those numbers from. And so when we met on Monday, I asked them, and they again admitted to making a mistake that should have only been under long-term liabilities, that we don't have any payroll liabilities. And so they've put all of that deferred revenue down where it should be, the $6 million, and where that came from is it came from our original contract with the Healthcare Authority from 2017. And so at the end of this audit, we will take all of our expenses that have been paid against that revenue, and so we'll balance it out, which hopefully will be next month. We'll see that next month.
So one of the things I would share with this board today, based on this level of detail of this short portion of the conversation, is this. What I find is, Becky had a number of questions that Moss Adams had not been able to answer by the time that we sat in Finance Committee. She was able to ask those questions. She was able to get the answers, recognize the discrepancies and the anomalies, which I think is really important. Knowing what questions to ask is critical. And then being able to have that stuff get worked out. You found the problems, you found the errors, you recognized the errors, they corrected the errors, and I believe, are you suggesting that the balance sheet as it's been presented today is correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think, of course, that's important ask, again, to the board. That's an important ask. I think that does move us from an informational discussion today to one of an action item. And I think that, Becky, why don't you walk the rest of the way through the kind of the high level stuff, so that the board has an understanding of what, kind of the summary information that we typically provide, and then we can move forward with an action item. And then I think we also need to talk to the board today, seeking another action item on the relocation of the office, right? So those two things you want to get done today, correct?
Correct. Yep. And we have the SBAR for that is next.
Okay. I would think that let's knock out the financials first and then move to that.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Yes. So our normal course of business for the board meeting is to review the budget versus actuals, which is what Lauren has up for our operations budget. And I think something that's new this month is the Yakima Valley Community Foundation payment. We've paid that out to the Yakima Nation, so that was really exciting. And then we still have their LIN money, $30,000 of the Yakima Nation LIN money in our restricted account, and we have a contract written, and the nation has it, and it's flowing through their contracting process to get signed. So we're hoping that that'll happen really soon. So we'll have that $30,000 paid to them based on the deliverables that we put in the contract. Let's see, and then we have the restricted fund for our opioid summits, which really is just our summits in general. We did have some spend down on that from last time we talked. And so, let's see, and then so we'll skip down to our investments. We have $79,000 of interest earned, and one thing that we talked about at the Finance Committee meeting this time is that the Healthcare Authority has been working with the PCG, who are the folks that manage our district money, and they have decided to allow all of the ACHs to start earning interest on the money that's in that account, which is a significant amount for us. Of course, we're paying it out to our providers as quickly as we can, but we still do have a lot of money in there. So that's been kind of a big topic lately with the finance leads of the ACHs and the Healthcare Authority and PCG. So that's exciting. So we'll have some more investment money to strategize on how to better utilize that for GCACH. The next block is our expenditures. We didn't have, I don't think we have anything in there that's unusual. You can look on the expense sheet that we provide that has our statement of activity if you want to see the details of that block of expenses. Okay, thank you, Rachel. So one of the things that we hadn't been paying on up until this month was our learning collaborative. You can see we paid out $7,766 this month on that.
As of July 31st.
As of July 31st, and that's going to be going up because of all of our learning collaboratives that we're doing in our transitional care learning collaborative that we did with P&W last month. We have all of our speaker fees and stuff to pay out of there, so there'll be some more expenditures coming out of that really soon.
Okay, very good. So are you ready for a recommendation for
promotion? Yes.
Okay.
Jackie.
So the board or the finance committee went through all of this stuff in great detail Friday. We spent a lot of time on it, and I was very, very comfortable with the results. Becky, of course, does an excellent job in that detail, and I, as director of finance committee, yeah, you guys did a super job. So I am very comfortable making a recommendation, moving that we accept the financials as presented today.
Okay, so I have a motion from Brian. Is there a second?
I would second.
Sandra, second.
You got 3 more.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, no discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Brian. Also, Brian, we did talk at the Finance Committee about putting the audit out for an RFP this year.Id you want to bring that up?
Yes, I think that's good. Thank you for that. I had actually, that slipped my mind. So one of the discussion points of that meeting, thank you, Rhonda, was that about 2 years ago, we looked at a number of vendors to provide audit services. We selected Moss Adams. They were not the cheapest, but at the time, probably were the strongest and had probably, I think my recollection was we had a very good, comfortable working relationship with those guys. I think there's been some change in the group, and it is probably worthwhile going through that exercise again. It is not to say that we necessarily have to walk away from Moss Adams, but it is worth, after a couple of years, you want to look at other alternatives and see if somebody's got a better product, better price. And so I would recommend that we ask the staff to go and consider other vendors for the upcoming audit. Thought it probably makes some sense to have this discussion early, as that audit activity generally happens in the early spring. So now is the time to go through that exercise. And so I'd recommend and move that we ask staff to take a look at that and bring back recommendations for auditors.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is there a second to that?
Susan Grindle, seconds.
Thank you, Susan. Is there any discussion about that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, Okay, thank you. So thank you for that. Okay, so on to the SBAR.
Yes, please. And again, I'm going to defer this to Becky and team. And as you go through it, then we'll kind of loop back around if that's okay with you, Becky.
Yeah, so Carol and I are going to tag team this one.
We'll tag team. I'll start with kind of the preliminaries. This is a little bit different SBAR that you received today than in last week's packet. We decided it would be a good idea to show you guys exactly which facility that we're talking about. So we're talking about a movement of Greater Columbia from CAC to the GCACH Business Park in Kennewick. You can see from the map location it's located near the Columbia Center Mall. That's the big complex that has the arrow pointing to it. And then GCACH Business Park is, I would say, maybe a half a mile from the Columbia Center. So it's a high visible location with lots of drive-by traffic that we think will promote a little bit more the presence of Greater Columbia ACH in the community. And the reason that we started down this road is, you recall, we had our retreat in April, and one of the recommendations coming out of that retreat was that Greater Columbia ACH consider becoming a center of excellence. And so we want to project an excellent presence in the community through just where we're located at. The analysis on the second page talks about some of the expertise that the board felt that Greater Columbia was strongest in, which is providing expertise in the PCMH model, convening sectors for the purpose of sharing best practices and peer learning, and then connecting, coordinating, and teaching organizations on the collective impact model. So that, in a nutshell, is the reason that is why we are looking at this new space, and Becky's going to get into the financial details.
So this spreadsheet that's up on the screen now, the first block shows the monthly costs, and so this is just highlights our current rent, janitorial, internet, phone, water, sewer, garbage, basic utilities. So for currently, that is $4,494. And in the new space, it increases by $759 to $5,253. So it is a bit of a higher expense, but as you go through the SBAR, you'll see that we are looking at cutting some costs in some other ways to try to make up for that. One of them, you can see in that blue area, we've been talking with United Way about moving our learning collaboratives from CBC to United Way, which would save us a lot of money because CBC is expensive and they require a specific caterer who's also expensive, and the United Way doesn't charge us for this space, and we would be in control of the catering, which when we do have meetings there, it usually consists of Costco, and it's about $40. And that's a really big difference from the over $300 that CBC charges us to use their caterer. So there's some cost savings there that we're looking to try to make up for that, to find some ways to make up for that difference in our monthly rent. That's just one of our ideas. We have a few others floating around as well. And so the next block is the actual cost to move. And we contacted Bella's Furniture because they are the company that we purchased our current office furniture from last year, 2017, in 2017. So we contacted them, and they went out to the space and measured and showed us some options they showed us two options, one for moving our current space office furniture that we have now, and which would also include new furniture for Carol's office because she's currently using furniture that belongs to CAC, so we couldn't move that. And it also includes new conference room table because our potential new office has a beautiful conference room, has lots of windows. So we were looking at a new office, new conference room table and chairs also. So both of these options include those added items. So option 2 is moving our current furniture, and we included staff downtime in that analysis because Bellows is predicting that it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 days that it would take them to move our current furniture, which would cause some staff downtime. So we put 3 days of staff downtime into that analysis. And so that total, and so that also includes in both the options, you can see the line that says lease buyout, and that's our current CAC lease, and that's just an estimate. We've actually been contacting and have been contacted by other agencies that would potentially want to rent the space. Someone just came in yesterday actually and was looking at the space. And so there's a potential there that we could work with CAC to not have to completely buy out our lease. So that number, that 9,900, could hopefully go down. We're really working hard to get that number changed. And then the other buyout contract is our current fiber contract that we have with CenturyLink. They don't offer services in Kennewick, which I was surprised at, but so we would have to most likely buy out that contract also. And again, I'm negotiating with them to not have to pay out the entire contract, but I put the whole contract amount in there just to be safe. And then the next line talks about IT upgrades. And some of that is upgrading the IT, that is the upgrading the IT services at United Way. So we are offering to upgrade their Polycom system and some of their other IT infrastructure. Lauren's been working with our IT support person that we have here to figure out how much that would cost so that we could have meetings there and meetings that are up to the standards of what we offer at CAC. So we have option one, which is, so in the SBAR, we're asking you guys to approve the option one, which would be to have new furniture set up in the new office space from Bella's, and we would leave our old furniture here, and they are offering to buy it back from us. So we would get a little bit of a credit on the new furniture, and they would take our old furniture that we have here. And so we put 0 staff time downtime on that because we would be at CAC working while Bellows was setting up our new furniture. And our IT person, I've already spoken with him, and he is willing to help set up our computers over the weekend. So he was thinking like on a Friday, we would move everything to the new space, and then his team would work over the weekend to get it set up so we'd be up and running on Monday. So so that's, you'll see in the recommendations, that's what we're asking for.
I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're so excited about this space. Number one, it's a little bit larger by about 500 square feet. It has an open space floor plan so that all of the offices pour out into a more of a central location, so we're not bisected by a wall or a hall that divides us. And so a lot of the staff feel like they're separated from the rest of us because they are on a different hall. I think that the privacy is also an issue. The walls are pretty thin here, so we can hear people talking and babies screaming next door. The bathroom's flushing. So I think that it would just be a great staff morale booster to be in a little bit nicer facility with a more collaborative space where we could feel more like a team.
Okay. So, Finance Committee went into this in detail with staff. We talked a lot about the dollars and cents aspects. We talked a lot about the advantages to the space itself, the expansion. Again, the collaboration, the larger space, anticipated growth of staff as we move forward and develop into the next future of our organization. And so after those discussions and frankly, a little bit of a detailed, and we challenged the staff pretty well, we also came to the conclusion that it makes a great deal of sense to advance staff's recommendation that we authorize the move from the GCACH in Kennewick under that first option of $50,500. We also were going to We had an underutilized expense line under contract services, and that we could reallocate some dollars out of contract services, maintain a balance of about $100,000, allowing the staff to effectively utilize those dollars. And we would make that as a recommendation from the Finance Committee up to the board. So I would go ahead and make that as a motion under the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, so I have a motion from Brian. Does somebody want to second that?
I
This
will
is Sandra, I'll
second
second.
that. Ronnie Batchelor seconded that.
Okay, so we'll take a second from Ronnie on that. Is there discussion or questions from the board? That was a lot of information, so I want to give a second if anyone has any questions or comments.
I have a comment.
And who is that?
Ronnie Batchelor. I
Okay,
think that
Ronnie.
this will help the staff build a culture around themselves. I think that it would also give them an independence away from CAC as a separate entity instead of incorporated into that space. I think that it's a great foot forward for a new beginning.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no other comments, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Then we'll consider that approved. Congratulations.
Thank you, board. Thank you, Brian.
Okay,
You're welcome.
so we have a few discussion items left, Carol.
Yeah, just a few. I'm going to let Lauren talk about the kickoff celebratory dinner.
So really quickly, I just wanted to mention that we are planning to have our October kickoff and celebratory dinner or rewards dinner. We haven't set it on the name yet. On October 30th, and we're planning to host it at Walter Core from 5:30 to 8:30. I'm happy to send out a hold to put on everyone's calendar, but we have yet to determine very much for this event. All we know is the venue, the date, and time. We're hoping to invite cohort 1, cohort 2, possibly cohort 3, and the board members. So we're expecting around 250 people, and we're hoping to bring forth that budget to the board at our September meeting.
But we are looking at least doubling the budget that we had last year, which was $10,000. So it would probably be closer to $20,000 or $5,000
due to the increase in attendees for the event.
More to come.
Okay.
Briefly, I will let Wes and I can talk about this Department of Commerce grant. So there's an opportunity for only ACHs in collaboration with a hospital or a series of hospitals to go after a grant that the state legislature funded during this past legislative session. And so the timeline is very, very short. We found out about it at the end of July. It's due the 21st of August. But what it would do is really help synthesize our thinking around our permanent supportive housing project that we are in conversation with and that is moving forward very positively with Catholic Charities out of Spokane. So we had a meeting last week with the partners for that particular project, and hopefully we'll be working with Providence to supply us with referrals into this new referral system and use temporary sheltering for these individuals until we can build the permanent supportive housing project. So it's really kind of kickstarts our thinking around the long-term project. Unfortunately, there have been a couple of other ACHs that were aware of this grant opportunity during the legislative session because they were working with the legislators. So we feel like we're a little bit at a disadvantage, but I think it's still a great exercise to go through and look at the target populations, the number of people that we could get into the system, and really kind of some back of the envelope costs that we realize we need to do more work on. But again, it's just a great impetus for us to get our act together around this other funding opportunity for permanent supportive housing.
And the amount of the contract is $350,000 a year for the 2-year biennium beginning in September and extending through June of 2021. So there's a little bit of money here. Having read through the RFP, though, there's an expectation that actually the ACH might contribute some of their own funds into the project to make it a go. But it's something that we're pursuing. And I think, as Carol might have mentioned, we're working with a grant writer to help us with the technical buildup of the RFP response, which will be due next week.
Okay. And cultural competence training?
So I sent out a calendar invite, I believe it was last week for the week before, wow, time flies. The week before for the Yakima Nation Cultural Competency Training on September 26th. The time of the convening is 12 to 4 p.m. and it'll be at the Legends Casino in Toppenish.
And we will provide.
And we will be providing lunch, yes.
This is part of a normal training that we've done for the last 2 years. It's guided by the Yakima Nation, and I attended it for the first time last year and found it very informative, interesting, and rewarding.
Okay, so we have I'm sorry, Wes. I just noticed we had a question that goes back a little ways from Les wanting to know when the move would occur.
September, right?
So we have been working with, the space is currently empty, and so we've been working with the real estate agent on that, and we've asked the landlord to repaint, and then there's one space that doesn't have a door that we want to make into an office. And so the real estate agent has obtained 3 bids for that work, and she's been kind of holding off waiting for the board decision, but I did talk to her this morning. So the landlord is willing to paint and put a door on that office based on the bids that she received. So it's all been kind of contingent on this board decision. So now that we have that, we were in my analysis of the financials, I had anticipated that we would be moving in early October, and so we would be paying October, November, December rent, which was what total that almost $10,000. So, but like I said, we have people looking at the space. So as soon as we can, the answer, Les, is as soon as we can get it painted, get the door on that office space, and get those to get our new furniture in there is when we'll move. So I'm anticipating early October.
So what Les's question is, will the board fit in the conference room?
Probably not. I don't think the whole board will fit in the conference room. But we have United Way is just down the street from our new office, and I mean honestly, we'd be happy to show you guys when we move in. Stop by, say hi, see our new space. I think that would be. I don't think we'd all fit in the new conference room.
Not with all the staff. Not with our staff.
Not with all the staff in the.
Okay. So, so we are just pushing up against 12 o'clock. Is there anything else pressing that anyone would like to bring up? If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Seconded. This is Brian.
Okay.
I guess I'm making the motion.
Okay. I need a second.
Second. That was Ronnie.
All right. And all approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of August. Believe it or not, it's almost over.
Right.
Thank
you all.
everyone.
Very, very good. Very, very good. I appreciate this.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.